ventilation station.
You know what it is by now, people. This is the ventilation station. You should know by now anyway. It's episode 3, unless you're one of those people who skips the pilot or the first few episodes of a series. But I don't know many people who actually do that. Yeah. Anyway, what? Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just wondering when you're going to stop talking.
My name is Chileshe, and alongside me is my relatively problematic sister, Mulesa.
Ugh. Anyway, hi everybody. Don't listen to what he has to say.
You started. Speaking of highs, have you received any high messages lately?
You know, funnily enough, I actually did. I got one maybe like 3 days ago. This was actually from someone who is not really like a close friend, but more like a friendly acquaintance, like more of like a colleague, let me just say. So yeah, and I was just kind of willing to just kind of let it slide. Usually I honestly, like on principle, I don't really like answering just hi on its own, because I'm like, okay, well, give me more. I need to know if it's urgent or not. But I thought, okay, let me just be polite and just see what it is that he wanted. It wasn't much in the end, but yeah.
Anyway, if you are lost right now, make sure you go back to episode 2 and check that out. You know exactly what we're talking about. Right, now on to today. So in society, we often at times try to conceal our anger, which can in some instances be detrimental to our mental and even our physical well-being. So today, we decided to address the question as to when someone should let loose and confront someone, and in what manner they should do so. So Melissa, when last did you confront someone?
Honestly, it's been a while actually. But yeah, define confront.
Essentially any instance in which there's a disagreement between you and another party or more parties, depending on what you get into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been some time.
Are you a person who generally avoids conflict, or are you afraid of it?
I would say I used to be uncomfortable, with confronting somebody and with conflict. But I mean, there's no such thing as a conflict-free relationship. It doesn't exist. So these days I've gotten better at, facing my fears when it comes to that, and just having it out with someone when it's necessary.
And how did you feel about confrontation growing up?
Growing up, I was generally quite uncomfortable with conflict and confrontation. I think primarily because I'm the type of person who, kind of wants everybody to get along. I can be a bit of a people pleaser at times. So yeah, I used to find it very uncomfortable to try and, confront somebody about something that really bothered me, because I always really wanted there to be peace. I'm like a peacemaker type person, I'm a pacifist, exactly. Like I don't really like there to be, too many issues, but as I've gotten older now, I've realized that it is important to confront people about things that bother you. It's important to have things out. It's important to have a healthy, constructive conversation about what's bothering
from time to time.
Exactly.
So my next question is, when is the right time to confront someone? Generally speaking.
Yeah, generally speaking, it depends on a variety of different factors. It's kind of hard to pinpoint and say, okay, in every single instance, this is exactly how and when you should confront somebody, because it really just depends, I think, on, for one thing, just the nature of your relationship in general, how you relate to each other. And also, it is difficult sometimes when you're dealing with certain personality types to also have a confrontation that will lead to any kind of constructive resolution.
That's a very important point that you said there, because personality types essentially entails that we all see the world differently, we all think differently.
Exactly.
And where we experience conflict is trying to see the world through each other's eyes, trying to garner that empathy. That's one of the hardest things to do in this world. But in terms of confronting people, generally is not a good way to look at it. As I initially stated, it depends on the type of relationship you have with that person. They could be your friend, they could be your family, they could be complete strangers, or they could be work colleagues.
Yes, let's do a little exercise here. Let's run through like each of these different types of relationships and discuss when and how you should confront someone in each particular instance.
It should be interesting.
Yeah. Let's start off with work colleagues. So let's just say, you have a fridge at work, and everybody has a little label for their food or whatever it is that they brought to work.
Okay.
And one of your colleagues decides to just help themselves to a yogurt that you've left in the fridge. One of your favorite flavors, it's what you eat like almost every single day, just one of those things.
Yeah.
When does a confrontation happen? How should you approach that person?
First and foremost, this sort of confrontation does not require any form of physical force.
I think it just is a blanket rule. We can say that we should not resort to violence.
As a blanket rule, let's just say that.
Yeah.
So this guy or this person has been taking my yogurt, my favorite food, out of the fridge.
I know that you said a guy.
Yeah. It sounds like a guy thing to do anyway. I think I would wait and see if this person does it again.
Okay.
If I know this person has done this previously, then I would wait for it to occur a second time. If it doesn't occur a second time, then I'll possibly just let it slide.
Okay.
Whereas if it does occur again, I feel that immediately after I do find out with evidence that the person did indeed do that, that a confrontation should take place. Not necessarily within the workplace, but preferably outside with no one around so the person doesn't get embarrassed or something like that.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. So let me put it to you this way. Let's say it is more of it's a work-related thing. And it has to do with a work assignment in which you feel like this person is not adequately pulling their weight.
One lazy guy, huh?
Yeah. And it's a project that is, very, very important. It's a task that is particularly, essential to, the functioning of the business. And your job is pretty much on the line here. When and
so
how
like a uni assignment.
Yeah, like I guess we can also kind of bring it in that context as well. Of your group assignments. I'm sure many people have a lot of stories about group assignments.
Yeah, there was one person who turns up on the day it's due.
Literally, and has not been doing anything throughout, and then suddenly wants to just kind of take over the whole thing, or is just literally coasting throughout. But let's not get into group assignments.
Yeah.
But in that sort of instance, when and how should that kind of confrontation take place?
That's an instance in which a confrontation needs to take place ASAP, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because if it's to do with your ability, or rather if it impacts your ability to move forward, or it's hindering it in any shape or form, then you immediately need to confront that person.
Time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence. Otherwise, they will just continually repeat the same behavior. But on that note, since we clearly agree on the timing, emotionally speaking, how raw should such a confrontation be with your colleague like that?
In a professional setting, it should never get to a place where it's too emotionally charged. It has to come from a place that is professional. So you really, should, as much as possible, try and avoid any kind of emotional language or any kind of emotive language. Keep it to just professionalism and what has been done. Basically, people's actions in that particular instance.
Yeah, because a lot of people, when they are having a confrontation of sorts, do tend to move towards that sort of dark territory whereby they start throwing all sorts of swear words.
Expletives, yeah.
I mean, it's the mix.
It's not easy, that's the thing. And, especially when you feel particularly jaded or particularly upset about something, it is very difficult to separate yourself from your emotional side. And especially if that behavior has, continued for some time and, you're clearly displeased by it and the other person doesn't seem to be aware of how detrimental their behavior is towards the completion of a particular project. It is very easy for you to kind of resort to that anger. But
that person's messing with your money.
Exactly. Don't mess with the bag.
Don't mess with the bag.
That's the thing. So, but at the same time, we need to try as much as we can to separate ourselves from that emotionally and just come from a place of saying, look, professional to professional, this needs to happen in this particular way. Or not, you don't have to really prescribe anything, really. You can just simply say that, okay, this is what happened. It's affecting the project in this particular way. Can we do things like this instead? Or what do you suggest? How can we maybe fix this?
Meet in the middle,
Exactly. Try and make the language be as, the language should just like there's a compromise of sorts. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at friends. You and your friend have a relationship in which you're constantly throwing jabs at each other. It's all fun and games.
It's like a give and take of insults back and forth, but it's all meant to be friendly banter.
Oh yeah, exactly. All fun and games.
Okay, got you, yeah.
So either you or your friend says something and one party gets offended. What is the next step from there?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So yeah, essentially here, like you said, the relationship is based off just that banter. Like you throw those insults at each other. Seemingly, it's all fun and games. There's no harm done, and then it gets to that point where something is said that one person doesn't appreciate.
Yeah.
I think it's important that you kind of nip it in the bud then and there, in order for you to avoid getting upset about it at a later stage.
Yeah.
I think it is important that you do just, you say it as quickly as possible. Like, look, okay, you've taken it too far there. That I didn't appreciate. I don't mind anything else, but what you said there, don't go there.
And I do agree with you. That is very important. But the problem with doing things on the spot like that, or as soon as possible again, is the emotional aspect. How do you ensure that both parties are going to separate their emotions and work towards some constructive agreement with regards to where you should stand with each other?
Actually, it's very true. Because, in my case, like, I often find that when it comes to kind of very emotional confrontations, that my approach has often been to kind of walk away from it first and then calm down before any words are exchanged. Because I know for a fact in my case is that when I am upset, I can say certain things to someone that I know very well will insult them because I want them to feel the same hurt that I felt. And that is not the right approach to take. So I get what you're saying when, you have to kind of sometimes wait it out, especially when it's very emotional like that. And it's
especially with friends.
Yeah, especially with friends. You don't want a situation in which you're letting things fester for one thing, but at the same time, you don't want to kind of talk about it on the spot if it's something that particularly insults you and cuts you pretty deep, because that may lead you to saying all kinds of things that will probably hurt and also equally offend your friend.
Fist fight.
Yeah, it could become a fist fight. It could become a fight. Yeah.
So let's talk family, because it's pretty much in the same vein. You view your friends the same way in which you do your family generally.
Yeah.
What's the best approach where confronting a family member is concerned?
I think much like with friends, it's important to make sure that both parties are completely calm when they are having a confrontation, because, like we've already discussed, emotions can run very high and it can very quickly escalate into something even worse.
Well, let's look at it this way, Melissa.
Okay.
Let's talk about an old family beef that's been going on for a long time. When is the best point to address something that's been going on for, say, a year plus?
Is there ever really a right time for that? I mean, a year, of course, like you said, a year plus has gone by. So again, I think it just takes a moment when you both say, okay, let's just sit down. Clearly, this particular issue has been festering and it's affected both of us negatively. We set aside a time where we can all sit down, have a family meeting of sorts, where we can hash it out.
For one, I think it largely also depends on the nature of said beef or said disagreement. What is going on? What is it causing?
Yeah.
If you're not talking to that person over a number of years, then it shows that it's a serious issue there. And it also begs the question of whether you actually value that person as well, because people you value, you obviously would want to talk to them, you would want to interact with them, etc.
And that's like, if I can just quickly just kind of jump to when it comes to confronting strangers, I think generally it's not always necessary to confront a stranger about something if you don't really see the relationship going any further than maybe just casual acquaintances. True. Usually for me, my rule of thumb is kind of that if I truly care about this person, then I feel like a confrontation is necessary and it has to be as quick as possible. That we hash out whatever issues that we're having with each other so that we can move forward without having that particular issue holding us back.
And sticking to the topic of confronting family, for some reason you've been wanting to fight me for years. Where did you get this idea from?
Well, okay, first of all, I don't even know why you're surprised. Second of all, here's where I got the idea that we probably just need to just, hash it out. Like, just possibly.
I'm listening.
I need a few years to train though. But yeah, the inspiration behind that was actually this like Peruvian festival that I came across. I think it was like maybe 2 years ago or something. So my inspiration for wanting to confront you in the octagon or whichever other arena you would prefer is actually this Peruvian festival that takes place every Christmas. So essentially what this group of people do is that they will have it out with each other. They'll have a particular little arena situation where they air out their grievances verbally, but then they also have a particular section where they fight physically as well. So they hash out everything and they just, they fight and do what they have to do. And then for the rest of the year, it's cool. Like the beef has been resolved on Christmas, so we're good to go for the rest of the year.
Peruvian Fight Festival.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. I mean, it does happen in one of the provinces in Peru. So
You are something else.
those people are innovative and they are creative and they are absolute geniuses. I endorse this.
Yeah. Yeah, you are something else. Make sure you tune in next week for even more venting. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe depending on whatever platform you're using.
You've been listening to
The Ventilation Station. Catch a new episode of Ventilation Station every week on your favorite streaming platforms.